Technology has two paths for the future. If you clicked on this, it's probably because it's the pinned video in my YouTube channel, which is about technology, AI in general, and specifically longevity technology and how that will affect the future. But this video is about technology in general. And the ideas that I want to talk about they're going to be very specific, but they're also going to be very broad and almost philosophical in a way. And we're seeing more and more that AI and these sorts of things, philosophy is shaping a really big role in how the future of technology actually plays out. So what I want to talk about today is something very, very important. And it's the concept that we have as a society two paths, two alternate futures. And it really is as simple as that. And there's actually no gray area between these two paths. And I'm going to lightly touch on what those two paths are. First is technology for a totalitarian government. Technology that devolves into a totalitarian government. And the other is technology that tends towards freedom. These are the two paths. And why do I say there's no middle ground? Well, there could be a middle ground, but what I'm saying is that once we go down one path or the other, it's a self-reinforcing cycle. So what do we mean by each of these? Well, the path of totalitarian technology is one where the power of technology, and we think about technology as a fire. Fire can hurt you or warm you, and this will hurt us if we go down this path. The totalitarian version of technology is we develop AI, we continue developing AI to a point where mass surveillance becomes a thing. We become more and more lazy. We start electing more and more communist and socialist policies because we're terrified of the wage inequality, which will be a really big problem. We start going down this path of trying to limit the types of technologies that can be invented, or we start to limit specific types of technologies. And the only kinds of technologies that can be invented are ones that make people dependent on the system. Right now, let's think about all the technologies that do exist, and let's think about whether they empower you or take power away from you. Social media. Now, all of these things do give you power in some way, but they also make you dependent. Social networks essentially hack your brain to plug you into an algorithm, right? The power grid, if a storm comes and your power lines get knocked down, you're out of power. But more than that, if the government decides, oh, you know what, these specific people, they don't really like what we're doing. They don't like the policies that we're setting forth. I don't think they deserve power. I don't think they deserve power today. So they're going to go up there and they're going to cut the power lines, they're going to cut the power to your house. So, yes, the electricity is very empowering, but the fact that it's all in one huge plant and it's all distributed to everyone means that the government can come in and just, pay the electric company to say, hey, turn off these guys' power until they cooperate. That could just happen. You know what I mean? That could just happen. Okay, medicine. Oh my goodness. So since I'm into longevity and biotech and all this stuff, medicine is one of the areas where we need the most improvement, and we need it fast. And hopefully AI will help us get there, but there's a big risk. There's a very big risk that we as a species become terrified, petrified of the unknown, and we retract back into our shells like the scared little animals that we were once upon a time. But we aren't anymore, and we need to be brave and bold and go out into the great big beyond. And we need to do this in biotechnology. And what does it look like if we don't do that? Well, what it looks like is what we have now. And that's health insurance companies that are in bed with the government, so to speak, to provide healthcare and overcharge for medicine and procedures, and even recommend procedures that aren't needed in some cases just to make a bank. make a buck. And so there's this crazy incentive where medicine is overcharged, is charged way more than it needs to be, because why not, right? The government's paying for it. We're paying for it. And even within medicine itself, each pill that you take, like, what is a side effect? A side effect is basically a drug is given to you, but we don't know specifically how your body, like, each body is different. And when you get a drug, the side effects are essentially the excess medicine messing with your body's ecosystem to some degree, right? So the point I'm trying to make here is that within medicine, there needs to be a revolution. And what kind of revolution? Well, what if? And here's where I'm starting to, I've laid out the groundwork for a totalitarian society. We're already somewhat in one, right? What I mean by that is that technology, a totalitarian technological society, we are in one, because the technology is, yes, it's making our lives better, but it's trapping us. It's trapping us to a point where it's consolidating power into the hands of fewer and fewer people, to where it doesn't take much for the opinions of those few people to change, to essentially manipulate the population, cut off their power, cut off their internet, and they're done. And this is only going to accelerate if we keep on this path. It's going to accelerate to the totalitarian state if we keep on this path. Because once we have Neuralink in our minds, that's going to be so required. You're going to be so outcompeted if you don't have one of those chips in your head. And so you're going to need one so badly that it's going to be completely necessary. Everyone understands this is a very typical sci-fi thing that is written about, okay? But one company, two companies controlling the mind chips, let's say access to Mars, even, like, I really hope Elon gets us there, right? But if it's under one company, no more immigration to Mars, everyone's stuck on Earth. Just like consolidated power in the hands of fewer and fewer people. And I want to be very, very careful when I say that I'm advocating against consolidating power in the hands of fewer and fewer people. I'm not advocating for socialism or communism whatsoever. Absolutely not. What I am advocating for is this: technology for freedom. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. I'm going to explain it by providing examples of hyper-specific, beautiful future that we should be aiming for. This future would look like this. This future would look like using technology for freedom. So let's say 100 years from now, you wake up, you're not in a company-owned flat that's owned by this company, that's owned by that company, that's owned by BlackRock, that owns the moon, right? Which is where we're headed for now, headed towards now. No. You wake up in a parcel of land out in Colorado somewhere that you own outright without paying any property taxes. And you wake up, you get out of bed, you have this magnificent house that has been geoengineered to use the materials in the soil and, like, the wood of the property. And it's had a machine has come out, cut down the trees. It's like one massive robotic machine that came out and, like, forget about the trees, sorry. It was a massive robotic machine. This is just science fiction, right? But science fiction for freedom. You'll see what I'm saying pretty soon. A machine came out, dug up the earth, and extracted minerals straight out of the earth, and essentially 3D printed a house from the earth on your own land. Instead of being reliant on lumber from this country, oil from that country to run the machines, sheetrock from this state over here that might say no because you're off the credit score, or nails and screws and plumbing and electrical wires from such and such a company who decided to cut you off because you had said too many slurs online. Okay, so So instead, you had a machine that came out and extracted the dang house straight from your own earth. And all you had to do was rent the machine or you own the machine, right? Whatever. And so from this house, you wake up and you see 30 Optimus robots plowing your land, growing the food from your ground. Yes, you are homesteading. You literally have returned to homesteading, but in the 21st century. I mean, in the 22nd century, whatever. And you see 100 Optimus robots plowing the fields, harvesting your crops, instead of going to the grocery store where they've cut off your digital ID because you're too controversial. No, instead you have the robots that are harvesting your crops. And you go around to the side. Your stomach's been hurting a little bit lately. So you go inside your room where a med bay is literally standing right there, where all you have to do is get into this thing and it will scan you and tell you what's the problem and well, that might be a little bit too far, but it will create medication for you. And you have a medical unit that will take care of 90% of your needs right there in your own home. That's robotic, that's AI analyzed, that's completely safe. Instead of having to go to the doctor where your insurance has been denied because you're an enemy of the state for whatever reason. And so you're starting to get the picture. So you go around to the back of the house, and instead of seeing wires coming from the grid that wouldn't have worked anyway because you had absolutely pissed off the wrong people in the government's energy cycle, and they don't really like the way that you run your mouth about freedom online. And so instead you have a miniature nuclear fusion reactor that's engineered for us one house only, and you're completely off the grid. You have 100% clean energy, either or solar, right? Whatever, solar and fusion. If the solar goes down, a miniature fusion reactor that's like the size of a refrigerator, and you have Elon's Starlink for internet, so you don't have to plug into the internet provider. Mainstream internet provider, and the last thing is transportation. Flying cars. Everyone has really shitted on flying cars for a long time. I'm going to try to attempt to scrape the shit off flying cars, hyperbolically, by saying that I think we can create flying machines that are quiet and like vertical takeoff and landings and quiet, and we create like airways in the sky that are very versatile, because if you think about it, it would really solve traffic, because we have 3 dimensions. We have 30,000 feet of space, and a computer can just easily take us there. And I think we can make it much safer than air travel, than ground travel. I think Teslas are really great for a while, and we still want to be able to get around on the ground, but I think air travel long term can be good. But instead of hooking up to some taxi air service that you've been denied, no, you have your own. You've been banned from the roads or something, right, in this government. But check it out, you're mobile. You got your EV toll sitting out there, and it takes off, and you can just go wherever. It doesn't matter. Now this may seem like it's a rich person's, but the dream is for this to be the average citizen 100 years from now. The average citizen. And you might be asking, well, a lot of these products, man, like, you got them from companies. You're supplying on companies. Well, yeah, that's of course, but like the idea would be to use the technology to make each independent citizen as free as possible, as free mentally as possible, as free physically as possible, as free financially as possible. Freedom. Technology should be for freedom, not the other way around. And if we don't fix it, we're going to get cooked. Last but not least, man, you see, the idea would be for each of these technologies they're not made by one company or anything like that, but they need to have, we need as customers, we need to we need to uphold a standard of excellence for engineers, or for engineering companies and from product companies that are developing the products of the future, to say, what rating of freedom does this have? What rating of freedom does this give me as an individual? When I buy this, does this empower me or unempower or take power away from me as an individual, as a free-thinking American God-given right? Like, how many God-given rights does this empower or take away? And if you're building technologies that do, it's going to be a fusion reactor, and it's not only going to be a fusion reactor that fits in your house, it's going to be a fusion reactor that all the parts can be 3D printed at home. You can just buy this thing once, and if it starts breaking down and you have no access to anything, it's guaranteed that you can use your in-home robotics suite, manufacturing suite that's like super compact and tight and easy to use because it's AI and everything. You can use that to make parts and repair all your other technology. And so instead of being relying on, oh, it broke down, I need to go buy another one. No, you have created a system of technology in your own, that you own all of it. You own all of this technology, and you've created a system where if parts break down, or if things get destroyed, you can regain your freedom. It's a self-healing ecosystem of technology around you that provides freedom. I hope I'm not over complicating this, but it really goes as deep as this, right? And so in case that was a little bit unclear, it's just, what I'm saying is, for example, a piece of the fusion reactor breaks down, or your solar panel breaks down. Right now, you have to go to the store and just buy another part, and some companies are like, bro, you can't buy this part because it was made 10 years ago, and blah, blah, blah. And then 40 years from now, it's going to be more like, well, sorry, man, you said this thing online and it kind of hurt somebody's feelings. And we over here at Solar Electrical Giga Incorporated don't like the way that made people feel. So we're not going to sell you the part, and you're going to die. So instead of that future, no, you just go to your manufacturing pod that's on your home base, and you explain to it the problem, and the AI takes a look. One of the Optimi robots climbs on the roof, takes a look at the broken solar panel, says, okay, yeah, I think I can fix this, and we just need it to plug it in here and plug it in there. And you're good to go. And so now if any government comes to your front door, not only are you able to defend against them, hopefully with the Second Amendment, you are able to defend for yourself, each human being. Food, shelter, clothing, and ultimate three-dimensional and mental freedom would be promised to you. That is the other side of the coin. That is the future that we need to be aspiring to. We need to think, will this technology enable someone 100 years from now to live that kind of life that I just described on that farm out in Oklahoma or Colorado? And for literally every person to be that independent if they wanted to be, not tied into the system. I hope this has made sense, and I hope it hasn't been too much hyperbole. But go ahead and comment below and let me know what you think. This is going to be, that's like the guiding star of this channel. So I might, redo this video several times even and revisit it, because this is the message, the philosophical message that I want to get out. And as an entrepreneur, I want to strive to be, in biotech, I want to strive to be someone who creates freedoms for people. Take care.